Another big, kind of big ticket thing that we hit on personal and personal liberty and freedom is the emergency management statutes. Our emergency management statutes were written for floods and fires and tornadoes, right? A couple weeks. You got to cut through red tape, get the police in there, get people safe, get people food, get the National Guard mobilized. Our emergency management statutes were not written for, a COVID epidemic that lasts, 16 months or 15 months or however long this nightmare has been going on. It was not written for that. And also, frankly, our emergency management statutes were written with a implicit trust that our governor would follow the Constitution and not abuse our personal liberty and freedom, right? Yeah. And in retrospect, that seems silly, but at the time we thought, people that are going to raise their hand and swear an oath are going to uphold their oath, and that's not what's happened. May 21st of last year. Last day of the session last year, sine die, I was out on the Capitol lawn with 200 of my closest friends, and we were all demanding that the legislature do something. Because I don't know if you can, a lot's happened in this last year, but if you remember last year, gyms and bars were still closed. In a lot of places, restaurants were still closed. The restaurants that were open could only do takeout. Or if they could dine in, it was like half or quarter capacity. Our freedoms were just being stomped on. And so I went out there with, like I said, 200 of my closest friends, and we demanded that the legislature do something. The way the session works is bound by the Constitution. They're only allowed to meet, the legislature's only allowed to meet for 90 days, 90 total work days. If they want to meet for more, they need a supermajority in both houses in order to meet more. If they want to come back in special session, they have to all of them come back and meet in special session. So when you're trying to pass a law on the very last day, the governor has to agree. Because if she vetoes it, she could sit on it for 10 days, you're out of session, and then she vetoes it, you have to bring everybody back, 2/3 majority, to vote to have another session in order to override the veto. So they had to negotiate with her, and she actually ended up vetoing the legislation that they came up with anyways. They negotiated what we lived under for the last year, which is that the counties can opt out of whatever she orders. It's a Band-Aid, duct tape, baling wire. They're just trying to patch something together to put some kind of check on her power. Because before that, she could just say, you know what, everybody wear blue hats, because I say blue hats stop COVID. And if you're caught without a blue hat, you're getting a fine. And she could do it, and there's nothing anybody could do about it, right? So this was at least some kind of check. Each county, Johnson County, yeah, blue hats, give you a blue hat. But out here in Leavenworth, where we got a little common sense, we could say, I don't think blue hats cause COVID, we're gonna opt out.
I think we did a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's the compromise they came up with. She vetoed it and called them back into special session, because she can also call them back. And she called them back, and they passed the exact same law, and she said, great, fine. And she signed it. And so that's what we lived under for the last year. But it was always, just like, silly putty and duct tape and baling wire trying to piece something together until the legislature could come back. And so we did come back, and we were able to really address this. The first problem that we had was she kept extending the emergency. Mm-hmm. She could just extend the emergency, extend the emergency, extend the emergency. And what she would say is, I need to be able to mobilize the National Guard because we have to distribute PPP or we need to distribute vaccines. I need to be able to get federal money, and I have to have an emergency declaration to get federal money. And I have to be able to keep the courts under an emergency declaration, because a lot of the courts were just closed for months and months and months. And there was a Kansas statute that said that you have to get a trial within 180 days. And so she was using an emergency to extend that 180 days. And so we had to do something about those three things, or she was just going to keep extending this thing forever. And then we also needed to put your voice through the legislature back into all those executive orders, so she couldn't, tell us to wear blue hats, right? Because, like I said, making the counties opt out is really kind of shifting responsibility, right? It's like, well, I'm not voting on it. Let the counties decide if they want to do it. Now the counties are on the hot seat for a state emergency order. That's kind of shifty, frankly, but it's what they could get passed at the 11th hour and 55 minutes last year. So we had to do something. And so the first thing we did was we put into law a suspension of that 180-day rule for courts. And I got a lot of grief for that, because the way it was publicized was we're suspending the right to a speedy trial for 3 years. And that is, you still have a right to a speedy trial. You can go to a federal court if you feel like your U.S. constitutional right to speedy trial is being infringed. The truth is that, if somebody is accused of rape or murder or some other horrible crime, they don't want to have a trial, because they're probably not indicted unless there's tons of evidence. When they go to the trial, they're going to the big house, and so at least now they're in a county jail. They get visits. So their lawyers have no problem dragging it out, but they also don't want to extend that 180 days, because at 180 days their client goes free because we didn't give them a trial. I don't know about you, but I didn't want to put murderers and rapists out on the street because the courts were closed. And so we did not eliminate the right to a speedy trial, and we did not make people wait 3 years for a trial. All we did is suspend the 180-day law, which was a state law. And so you still have a Kansas and a U.S. constitutional right to a speedy trial. They're working through it. It was a compromise between both the prosecutors and the defense attorneys. They got together and came up with a solution, and we passed that into law. So that took care of that first excuse for why we have to extend emergency orders. The next excuse, it was federal money, and I'm going to come back to that. But then the last excuse was National Guard and all the emergency, the emergency operations center, the emergency warehouse, all that stuff, right? I will deal with the money too. It turns out, when you peel back the onion, none of the federal money that we've been getting actually requires the state to have an emergency declaration. Turns out that was BS. And when the lawyers got a hold of it and started peeling it back. But that's the emergency money. So really at this point, there is, the issue that is left about why she needs her emergency declaration is, well, I need the emergency operations center open. I need the National Guard mobilized. I need the emergency warehouse.
Why?
Yeah, why? Everybody who wants to be vaccinated at this point has probably been vaccinated. They're starting to do distribution to doctors, because the people that aren't getting vaccinated, the people that have I want to see if this thing's real, or do I even need it if I've had COVID? A lot of people in that boat. They're going to talk to their doctor, and they're making a decision about whether they want to get vaccinated. So we can go to regular vaccine distribution. So I am confounded as to why she still needs an emergency declaration at all.
Well, no, she's a Democrat, she wants power.
Yeah.
There's no component there at all.
Yeah.
That's the fact.
And she doesn't need it. And so in the legislation that we passed to repair the Kansas Emergency Management Act, she can't extend her own emergency anymore. She needs the legislature to do it. And since we're out of session, the Legislative Coordinating Council, which is basically the leadership of both houses, which is predominantly Republican, she has to go to them and say, can I extend my emergency declaration? and they were as skeptical as I was. So right now, her emergency declaration's ending on the 15th of June.
Good.
And she wailed, she gnashed teeth, she
Send her back
said,
to New York.
Yeah.
because I'm a
that,
New York.
we can all do that next year. We can all do that next year. Let's do
I'd
that.
love to tell
Yeah.
them exactly, you
Yeah.
know, I came here and I became a Kansan and
Yeah.
I've got roots. And I didn't want to bring my New York stuff with
Yeah.
me. But I'd love
Yeah.
to face to face with her, but send her back to stinking New York.
She
where
doesn't-
where she learned all this garbage from.
You can't even email her, so meeting her
I
face to
know.
face is
Hey.
gonna be kind of tough, so
Well,
yeah.
I
She won't
did
even let
I
me know.
did Twitter.
Yeah, yeah, for what that's worth, right,
You
yeah.
couldn't email
Yeah.
Adolf
Yeah.
Hitler either.
There you go, yeah.
So she's in good company.
So that, our emergency declaration ends on June 15th.
Good.
And she wailed and gnashed teeth, to which the Republicans responded, you knew this was gonna happen. Why didn't you make plan, say, oh, I can't, the National Guard has to continue to distribute vaccines. Why? You've known this was going to happen, why didn't you regularize the distribution? Oh, I need an emergency operations center. You have a Department of Health, they work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and all the other vaccines get distributed just fine without their supervision. Why do so Emergency Management Act, the emergency declaration ends on June 15th. Tell you what, if they extend it again, I'm gonna be right back on the lawn of the Capitol, and you're all welcome to come with me, I'll get a bus, and we'll go out there, and we'll give them what for, but I don't think, I can't imagine that, that they're gonna extend it again. She's done. June 15th, the emergency declaration's done.